Good evening and welcome to Biz RoundUp. I am Tamiru Nimsat and we at Art Television bring you a collection of business highlights. Let's have a look at the headlines. Sri Lanka tourism registers a robust upturn in 2023. The gem and jewellery sector raises concerns over the value-added tax. Single policy interest rate is our close target, central bank asserts. News in detail. President Ranil Wickremesinghe says that the main task this year is to ensure 2% growth of the economy. He asserts that the government is committed to reorganize the vocational training to have 9 vocational training boards for each province to better equip youth for the job market. The president made these observations while speaking to a group of students from the University of Jaffna recently.
Everyone must do not subsistence agriculture. We push them to do modern agriculture over the next 4-5 years. So there again, the universities have a role to play in agriculture. It should be some of the centers. Basically, Jaffna University should be the center for the north. Then we have asked the universities to expand, and we are going to put some new universities by the government, and there will be private non-government universities which will go on to the newest technology. We must have that technology. The Industry 4 technology, the digital technology, AI. So let's just keep producing them. Just imagine the number of people who can't get into who are qualified, who can't get into the medical faculty. Then we are going to reorganize the vocational training and have 9 vocational training boards for each province. And then you all can train for the market. We'll bring the NITA, VTA, Youth Council, then even Youth Co, all those ones will be brought under this. So you all can start off on that. So in education development, the different provinces will have to do in accordance with national policy. But we are trying to find some more new areas. So with this, people will come and start manufacturing. We are trying to make Colombo and Trincomalee good harbors to serve South India. So we become a regional logistic hub. So you have to think of it. People will come and shout. But that is not the thing. What is the main our task this year? Just to ensure that we have 2% growth.
Sri Lanka's tourism industry registered a robust upturn, surpassing over $2 billion in earnings with the arrival of over 1.48 million visitors in 2023. This marks the highest revenue and influx of visitors since 2019, according to data released by the central bank recently.
Data from the central bank reveals an impressive 82% surge in tourism earnings compared to the previous year. In November, earnings reached over $200 million, witnessing a substantial year-on-year increase compared to last year. Initially projecting to attract 1.55 million tourists and $3 billion in earnings, Sri Lanka Tourism revised the target to 2 million amidst a surge in arrivals in July. Looking ahead to 2024, Sri Lanka Tourism has set ambitious targets, aiming to welcome 2.5 million tourists and earn $4.6 billion. The long-term strategy envisions increasing arrivals to 5 million and generating an impressive $21.6 billion within 5 years. Part of this strategy involves welcoming high-end tourists, with plans to lift the average spending per visitor to $4,000. The Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority aims for 2.5 million visitors to spend over $500 per day, focusing on attracting high-spending repeat visitors.
The gem and jewellery sector in Sri Lanka expressed renewed concerns over being included in the new value-added tax regime. The industry, celebrating its rich legacy, achievements and future potential, voiced apprehensions while the government assured its commitment to boost earnings. The 3-day Facets 2024 exhibition, featuring over 100 stores and several pavilions highlighting Sri Lanka's gem and jewellery legacy, kicked off in Colombo last Saturday.
The Gem Pavilion, Premier Jewellery Pavilion, Sustainable Pavilion, Sapphire Masterpiece Pavilion, SME Pavilion and the SLGJA Pavilion showcase exquisite gem and jewellery. SLGJA President Ajwad Dean raised concerns about the gem and jewellery sector being included under VAT for the first time at the highest rate of 18%. He questioned the viability of the industry surviving such high taxes, potentially threatening its significant contributions. Dean emphasized the importance of recognizing the future potential of the gem and jewelry industry to earn significant foreign exchange. Facet Sri Lanka chairman Altaf Iqbal emphasized on the potential yet to be unlocked in the gem and jewelry industry. He urged policymakers to engage the industry and deliver viable policies for higher foreign exchange earnings.
Speaking at the event, Minister of Industries Dr. Ramesh Patirana said that it is important to make sure that the private sector has to be empowered in order to increase the foreign exchange earnings of the country.
We must ensure that the private sector of this nature, where brought in income for the government and its people, is well secured and it's looked after. So in that regard, we are having constant discussions with the stakeholders in relation to certain measures. As I mentioned last year, we were trying to liberalize your industry as much as possible. So whatever the stringent measures that we're adopting by the Gem and Jewelry Authority are much lesser now. In the long run, we were having discussions with the State Minister, who's the Chairman of the Gem and Jewelry Authority, how best we can go ahead in relation to certain concepts, including developing a free trade zone covering this subject. Please be assured, whatever that you may request from the government within our parameters, we are duty bound to provide that support to your industry. This, which has a very long history, the history of 2,500 years, which is going through a bit of a turbulent time as at now, but I'm quite sure, I'm quite convinced that with able set of people who are in the industry starting from the ground level to the level of exporters, we should be able to gain much for the country in time to come. The important question here is that if you consider last 20-30 years, if you look at the figures, there hasn't been a significant improvement in relation to the foreign exchange gains to the country. Last year we recorded $480 million. Well, we can say that we had difficulties in relation to some of the logistics issues. The tourism wasn't flourishing at that time, but 2024 has to be a better one than that.
Stay tuned. We will return after this short commercial break. Welcome back after the break. The Securities and Exchange Commission has given the green light to a groundbreaking regulatory framework paving the way for the issuance and listing of infrastructure bonds on the Colombo Stock Exchange.
This move aims to attract both foreign and local investments in vital infrastructure projects, ultimately fostering economic development. It aimed at raising capital for projects including roads, rail, water, management, waste management, airports, seaports, natural disaster protection, and other vital projects. The SEC emphasizes the importance of developing a market for infrastructure bonds to secure long-term capital for these essential projects. The SEC conducted a thorough study of comparable jurisdictions where infrastructure bonds listed in capital markets successfully financed major development projects. The regulatory framework for infrastructure bonds includes provisions for investor protection, rigorous due diligence, and stringent disclosure and reporting requirements. SEC Chairman Faisal Saleh stated that the SEC has created an opportunity for government and private sector companies to finance infrastructure projects through these bonds.
Safa Sharif Ekalik, the CEO of Export Bahrain, along with Zainab Matrouk, met with Dr. Kingsley Bernard, Chairman of Sri Lanka Export Development Board, on the 8th of this month. This meeting was initiated by Vijayaratna Mendes, the Ambassador of Sri Lanka in Bahrain.
Senior officials from the Sri Lankan Export Development Board, Sri Lanka Tea Board and private sector representatives from various export sectors engaged in the discussion. The discussions aimed at exploring avenues and promoting trade and economic cooperation between Bahrain and Sri Lanka. Safa Sharif highlighted how Export Bahrain supports micro and small-scale companies in Bahrain through various initiatives. She explained the possibility of supporting Sri Lankan companies facilitating connections with suppliers in the Middle Eastern markets. The Bahrain delegation expressed their willingness and readiness to assist Sri Lankan companies in addressing their trade-related challenges in Bahrain. They recommended that individual participating companies directly contact them to establish connections and explore potential opportunities within the Bahrain market. They strongly urged Sri Lanka to participate in the autumn fair in Bahrain, providing access not only to the Bahrain market but also to the entire Middle East region.
State Minister for Finance, Ranjit Siamlapitiya, revealed that only half of the people with the financial capability to pay taxes presently meet this obligation. The State Minister emphasized the importance of incorporating the tax evaders into the system, aiming to decrease indirect taxes and increase the direct tax rate. He revealed this at a news conference at the Presidential Media Center on Monday.
The State Minister announced that preparations are underway to implement a tax identification number system from February 1st. Minister Siambala Pittiya stated the government aims to elevate the state revenue to 12% of the GDP by the end of 2024 and set a target of 15% by 2025 for a stable economy. Additionally, amendments have been introduced for VAT, increasing the rate to 18% with a decrease in the limit to 60 million rupees. The government anticipates an additional 2.07% contribution to state revenue amounting to rupees 645 billion. The minister expressed confidence in bringing inflation back to 5% within 2 or 3 months despite a projected 2.5% rise due to increased tax rates. He added that preparations for the TIN systems are underway with challenges addressed at the divisional secretariat level, aiming to resolve them through an online system.
Stay tuned. We will return after this short commercial break. Welcome back after the break. Central Bank Governor Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe disclosed plans to consider adopting a single policy interest rate mechanism in 2024. Currently, the central bank employs dual policy interest rates, the standing deposit facility rate and the standing lending facility rate. The central bank governor made this announcement at the annual policy statement of the central bank on Wednesday. Dr. Veerasinghe emphasized the commitment to maintaining CCPI-based headline inflation at 5% under the Monetary Policy Framework Agreement. He suggested that an immediate shift in monetary policy might not be necessary given subdued underlying demand pressures. As part of ongoing reforms, the central bank will introduce an open market operations auction schedule in 2024. This user-friendly system aims to enhance the effectiveness of monetary policy implementation with a smooth transition to the new auction system by 2025. The central bank also plans to review the statutory reserve requirement framework, aligning it with international best practices. Governor Veerasinghe stressed stakeholders' consultation before implementing proposed policies with the goal of optimizing the SRR framework for the broader economy and financial system. To prevent over-reliance on liquidity facilities, the central bank has placed restrictions on access to standing facilities. State Minister for Finance Ranjit Siambala Pittiya addressed key issues during a special VAT awareness conference at the Ministry of Finance on Tuesday. The State Minister stressed the need for strict enforcement of laws to eliminate the trade mafia, emphasizing their activities without proper registration with the Inland Revenue Department. He outlined the government's strategy to expand the tax base with an anticipated rise in the direct tax percentage from 30% to 40%. During the conference, tax consultant Tanuja Pereira emphasized the importance of businesses remitting VAT to the Inland Revenue Department on time. She underlined that legal action may be taken against those failing to comply. She also highlighted the mandatory display of the Inland Revenue Department's issued license for shops eligible to charge VAT and the issuance of proper invoices following a set format. KKIA Randha from the Government Revenue Unit of the President's Office highlighted inefficiencies in VAT collection, citing identified areas of tax leakage. He argued that addressing these leakages is crucial for stabilizing the economy. The history of VAT adjustments was also discussed, mentioning the reduction to 8% in 2020 and its maintenance for the next 3 years. Currently, around 13,000 businesses are registered for VAT collection, with the government aiming to increase this number to 50,000 in the future. The Cabinet of Ministers has given its approval for the submission of the Financial Commission's report on 2024 along with the endorsed recommendations to the Parliament. Cabinet co-spokesman and Minister Bandula Gunawardena said this at the post-cabinet meeting media briefing recently. The minister highlighted the importance of transparency in the decision-making process concerning the allocation of resources for provincial development. Gunawardena emphasized that the establishment of the Financial Commission represents a stride towards fostering balanced regional development. This approach aims to address the diverse needs of provinces and encourage efficient resource utilization for overall development. The Financial Commission plays a crucial role in making recommendations for allocations to provincial councils from the national budget. Previously, the Cabinet had already approved the recommendations put forth by the Commission to the President for the year 2024. These recommendations encompass aspects of provincial development, including both capital and recurrent requirements for the year. Additionally, the Commission has provided recommendations regarding the allocation of government grants among provincial councils. With that, we wind up for today. For this and more, subscribe to our channel on YouTube and follow us on Facebook. See you tomorrow with State of Business at 7:45 p.m. Take care and good night.